Hey guys, how are you all doing today? I hope you're all doing well. Today I am here with a book wrap up, a really big library book wrap up. I read a bunch of library books over the summer from I'd probably say middle of May to like end of August. I read a bunch of books. And so today I'm here to talk to you guys about that. I'm not 100% sure what order these go in. I am going to try my best and let's get started. The book that I'm going to talk to you guys about is called Black Girl Unlimited. This book was so good. It was so cute. I read this book the beginning of, you know what? I said May. Probably like beginning of July. This is like over the course of a couple of months. Black Girl Unlimited, so good. The writing was so fun. It's very much a middle grade, and so I think I was expecting a little bit more, having not read middle grade in a while. It's part memoir, kind of part magic. She's this young black girl who is growing up in a mainly white, kind of richer school. And it's kind of her dealing with like the socioeconomic problems that come with being not a rich white person. And it was so good. She grows so much. There's so much growth between her at the beginning of the book and her at the end of the book. It was amazing to see, as well as like growing up and trying to find your place in the world and in the school. She is a wizard, and so she can perform magic in a way. This was so freaking good. I gave it 4 stars. The next book I want to talk about is Clap When You Land. I tried to get these in like the best order of when I read them. So this is like the best order that I could get, that I could remember. Clap When You Land. This is by Elizabeth Acavedo. I read With the Fire on High. Can't remember. And I loved it. With the Fire on High was so good. It was so well written. It just kind of like melted in your mouth. Like her writing just kind of, it like transports you. Clap When You Land was written in verse. I liked this a little bit better than I liked With the Fire on High, only because this was very much like about sisters and relationships. Basically, these 2 girls share the same dad, and when their dad is killed in a plane crash, it says it at the very beginning. It also kind of implies it in the title. When he dies in a plane crash, they have to figure out a way to meet each other. So good. It was so well written. I loved the characters. I loved how real they felt. They felt very authentic, very genuine, like people that you would know in your real life. You know what I mean? I really loved this book. Again, I gave this book 4 stars. Very highly recommend. And then I read The Boatman's Daughter. This book was so good. This book was so good. I gave it 4.5 stars. I loved this book. It's about this girl named Miranda who, her father was a boatman who transported drugs from this like specific place. My memory's a little bit shoddy when it comes to this book. I read it so long ago. It transports drugs from this specific spot to kind of like the main mob boss. When he is killed, Miranda has to take over. Miranda doesn't play by the rules. Dark forces, both human and supernatural, are at work in the bayou, conspiring to disrupt the rhythms of Miranda's peculiar and precarious life. Boom. And it's supernatural. I spit. It's very dark. There's some scenes that are like very twisted, and I cheered at the end of this book. I loved this. I gave this 4.5 stars. Highly recommend. And then I read this book, and I want to give a little bit of a preface before I talk about this book. I have a very strained relationship with death. I have always been a little bit afraid of it, but as someone who knows Jesus and who is saved, that's not a fear that should come into play in my life. And so to kind of help with that fear and to kind of give me a sense of finality, this is what happens to your body when you die, I read Smoke Gets in Your Eyes by Doughty. I will say that I recognized her voice on the audiobook and didn't realize that she is literally Ask a Mortician on YouTube. And I love her channel. I've been watching her channel for freaking ever. And I didn't realize she wrote a book. And she narrates the audiobook, and this is so good. This kind of discusses her life as a mortician and how she got into it and why. I love that it goes into the processes of what happens to your body when you die and who cares for your body when you die. I have another book by David Gibson called Living Life Backwards, and it's kind of like a walk through Ecclesiastes, living life in light of the end kind of a thing. I really love this book. This is more of a physical science breakdown of what happens to your physical body when you die. And Living Life Backwards, which I have yet to read but will read and will wrap up, talks about like your spirit, how to settle your spirit when it comes to death. And I really loved this book. I thought it was so well written. It very much has her own little flair, and you can hear her personality in the words, which is really fun. She has lived a life, that is for sure. But this is a memoir and kind of helped me cope with the idea that we all die. At some point in our lives, we are all gonna die. I gave this book 3.5 stars. It wasn't exactly what I thought it was going to be, but I wasn't disappointed. And then I read a book that I just don't know how to feel about. I read Bunny by Mona Awad simply because Kat from Paperback Dreams talked about this book and really loved it. It's weird. It's weird. This girl, I knew it, Samantha, she gets involved with this clique of girls who call each other Bunny. And she and her life, she kind of gets sucked into this cult world. And I don't want to say too much about it simply because there's so much to it. I spit again. There is so much to this book. There is so much to unpack. I have a lot of thoughts about this book that I can't get into because this is a spoiler-free wrap-up. But all I want to say is that I loved the ending. I thought that her explanation of these two people that have played a really important part in her life, how they came to be, it was done really well. I gave this book 3 stars. I enjoyed it, but not enough to reread it. I still highly recommend it if you want to read it. I say go for it. Even a book that I give 1 star and you're like, oh, the premise seems really interesting. Why not? Why not? Read the book. Who cares? So I gave this 3 stars. I felt like there was a point in the middle where I lost interest a little bit and it kind of dragged for me at some points. Overall, I really enjoyed her development, her character development. This is gonna sound a little bit backwards, but I really enjoyed the 4 girls. I really enjoyed the 4 girls and kind of how messing with certain stuff just isn't good. And I really enjoyed Samantha's development. I think a part that stands out most in my mind is when I read the book, when she doesn't go home for Christmas and she's kind of stuck in her apartment by herself. Felt really connected to that and I felt seen. I don't know. I really enjoyed that. I connected with that part of the book. Overall, I really did enjoy this book. I don't have anything bad to say about it. It just didn't do it for me. It just couldn't hit that moment. You know what I mean? The twist at the end was really, really good. It was probably my favorite. Overall, it just didn't do it for me, and so I gave this 3 stars. Next is a book that I literally just finished last week. Such a Fun Age by Kiley Reid. I have some thoughts, and my bookmark is in it. I have some thoughts. I had a hard time with parts of this book. I'm not going to spoil it. What I want to talk about is a spoiler. So this girl named Mira, she's a babysitter, nanny for this woman named Alix Chamberlain and her daughter Briar. Honestly, Briar was my favorite part of the story. She is absolutely fantastic. She is an absolute queen. She's only 3 years old. Yes, I loved Briar. I loved everything about Briar. She was fantastic. And Amira goes to... So Alix calls her in, and she like has to watch Briar last minute after her best friend's birthday. And so she shows up and picks up Briar, and they go to this very rich, very white supermarket. And Amira, who is a 20-something-year-old Black woman, is stopped by a security guard because she has a 3-year-old white child with her. And the whole thing's recorded, and it kind of, that event shifts the story, and it shifts the way Alix looks at Amira and the way Amira kind of looks at Alix. Like it shifts their relationship. And Alix did some things in this book that absolutely pissed me off. She did things in this book that were so questionable and so not okay, and just like really not for the right reasons. And I get it, like we're human, and that's kind of what happens. And the fact that Kiley Reid wrote that into the story, like Alix doing these kind of shadier things, makes her feel more human, makes Alix feel more human. But it didn't feel like there was a point to add that to the plot. It just didn't feel like... So there's some conflict in the book between Amira, Alix, and Amira's boyfriend. And I just didn't feel like it wrapped up enough, because Amira's boyfriend gets treated one way and then Alix gets treated another way, when really in actuality they should both be treated the same, in my opinion. She did some things that I just couldn't agree with, and I just didn't feel like the writing was able to like back those actions up enough. I ended up giving this 3.5 stars. I mean, I really did like it. It felt like it fell a little bit flat for me, I guess. A lot of people spoke really highly about this book and like absolutely loved this. I love it for Amira and for Briar. I love Briar. I loved this for Amira. Alix drove me up a freaking wall. She drove me crazy, and I could not with her. She's so privileged, and she is so self-aware, but doesn't do anything about anything. Boom. And then the next 3 books that I want to talk about are books that I absolutely freaking fell head over heels in love with. I don't have COVID. Thank you for asking. It's just allergies, I promise. I 100% promise you I know exactly what they're from. In the Dream House by Carmen Machado. This book was so good. 5 stars. I loved this. This book was so good. It is a memoir of Carmen's life living with an abusive girlfriend. And you just like you never hear about that, I guess, in like the LGBTQ community. She talks about that relationship. She describes what's happening to her in like different genres. She describes what's happening and all of these certain events that are important to the story and important in this relationship as different genres. It's very metaphorical. It's not metaphorical in like she wasn't abused. She was abused by her female partner. But the way she tells these stories is very metaphorical to her relationship and her experience. I thought this was so well written. I loved this memoir. I thought it was absolutely wonderful. I would say believe the hype, because it is that good. I gave this 5 stars. I love the writing. I loved the way she told the story. It was so unique. The way she described her partner and what happened was also very well written, was very good. I gave this 5 stars. I loved it. Honestly, I mean, what can I say about this book that hasn't already been said? Wow. I loved this. 7 out of 5 stars. 20 out of 10. Like, I loved this freaking book. When I like absolutely just like fawn over a book, I have nothing to say other than, oh my gosh, I loved it. It's about this girl, Chloe Brown, who is kind of a shut-in. She has a lot of health issues, and so it's kind of caused her to be cautious about the world and cautious about her relationships. And when she kind of has this opportunity with her landlord, when she kind of has this like opportunity to get out of her shell and not be held back by her health issues, she takes it. And I just want to be romanced. Talia Hibbard freaking killed this book. This book was so good. I'm getting goosebumps. I love this book so much. 7 out of 5 stars. I loved this. All I'm going to say about this next book, this is the last and final book I'm going to talk about in this wrap-up. Made me so happy. Oh, I love this. I have yet to read volumes 2 and 3. This book is just like boy on boy friendship into romance, and other than how much I loved this, it is a graphic novel, so it's like got pictures, and Alice Oseman like spoke to my heart with this book. Basically, it's about this boy named Charlie, super shy, super sweet, and he gets paired up with this boy named Nick, who is kind of like the popular kid. He's a rugby player, he's the popular kid, he's a jock, and he gets paired up with Charlie in science class, and they become really good friends. And then all I'm gonna say is that like warm feelings ensue, and this book doesn't have any writing in it. I mean, obviously it's got writing because it's got like dialogue in it, but it doesn't have any description writing. You know what I mean? It's got like a lot of pictures. And so this book reads really quickly. I think I read this in like 2 hours. When I finished it, I reread it because I couldn't get enough, and now I need the other 2 books to read. My heart can't wait any longer. This book was so good. I gave this 7 out of 5 stars too. Oh my goodness, it was so good. So that's my wrap up for today. Those are all the library books that I read over the course of the summer. I hope you enjoyed it. Comment down below if you've read any of these books and what your thoughts are. Also comment down below your favorite book or your favorite couple of books. Top 5, top 3, whatever you feel so inclined. Like, share, subscribe, do whatever. I mean, I'm not terribly picky about how you interact with this channel, but please, I mean, comment your favorite book, top 3, top 5, top 7, whatever. If you can't choose between 10 books, comment all 10. I'm down. Make some friends in the comments. Bond over books. It's my favorite topic to bond over. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I will see you next time. Bye.